I see your sword twitch before your thoughts are even clear. I hear the war drums in your breath. You call it courage, but I see the fear in your haste. You move first, not because you're ready, but because you're impatient, because silence unnerves you, because the stillness of strategy is heavier than the weight of the sword in your hand. But I move last. I move when your confidence turns to exhaustion, when your victory becomes vulnerable, when your offense reveals the cracks in its rhythm. The best general does not chase the tempo of the enemy. He sets his own and waits until others break theirs. Because time is not the enemy. Time is the battlefield. You think speed is dominance, but speed is often desperation in disguise. You think decisiveness is power, but power without precision is just noise. The more you rush, the more I see. Every charge you make draws a map of your weaknesses. Every word you shout gives me your position, not just of your troops, but of your spirit. I learn more from what you do early than you do from all your plans. Because I am not here to match your moves. I am here to outlast them. I don't react. I don't retaliate. I watch. And in watching, I command. Because in the theater of war, the one who moves last writes the final act. The best general is not the one who wins quickly. He is the one who wins finally, after all others have spent themselves. You spend your energy on action. I spend mine on clarity. You lunge. I wait. You provoke. I absorb. And in that moment when you think I have done nothing, that is the moment I decide everything. You fear hesitation. I embrace it, because hesitation is not weakness when it is deliberate. It is a lever, a weight that pulls the enemy forward, opens their formation, stretches their nerves thin. While you rush to act, I sharpen restraint. And while you celebrate early victories, I wait for the moment you forget to guard the rear. I have seen commanders throw entire armies into motion just to appear decisive. I have watched kings burn bridges behind them, not out of courage, but out of fear that they would change their minds. But I sit with my uncertainty until it becomes wisdom. The battlefield is not a place for the loud. It is a place for those who can stay silent longer than their enemy can stay strong. You move first because you need to do, but I move last because I need to win. There is a difference between movement and momentum. The former is noise, the latter is direction. You flash steel, I measure terrain. You raise banners, I calculate angles. You rally soldiers, I study silence. And by the time you reach my gates, tired and overextended, I do not even need to fight you. You have already defeated yourself. Because while you shouted, I listened. While you charged, I anchored. While you tried to conquer time, I became it. Do you think the last move is a reaction? You misunderstand. The last move is not the response. It is the decision that reshapes the board. When I move last, it is not because I was behind. It is because I was above. Look at nature. Does the mountain chase the wind? Does the tide rush before the moon? Power that lasts does not announce itself. And neither do I. You fight to prove something. I fight to prove nothing, because I have already proven it, to myself, in the temple of preparation. When you see me act, it is not the beginning of battle. It is the end of yours. The world has taught you that first is best, that the loudest voice is the leader, that the fastest hands win the prize. But war does not reward the quick. It rewards the patient. It honors the observer who sees the whole game while others fight over one piece. I have no need to strike you when you are ready. I will strike you when you are done. That is the way of the last general, the one who outweights your pride, who outlistens your arrogance, who outplans your emotion. This is not passivity. This is power, and you only recognize it too late. You will call me cruel. You will say I watched you suffer. But no, I simply let you show your plan, and then I wrote mine, using your weaknesses as ink. Because every move you made was a confession, and every silence I held was a choice. I do not win by having more soldiers. I win by needing fewer. I do not win by forcing you to lose. I win by letting you give it all away before I begin. And that is why the best general moves last. Not because he is slow, but because he lets time ripen the victory until it cannot escape his hand. You count battles by how quickly they end. I count them by how long their effects last. You want the strike that ends it all. I want the formation that prevents it before it begins. Victory is not a moment, it is a condition. And the best conditions are shaped when no one is looking, when dust settles, not when blades clash, when minds shift, not when bodies fall. While you're marching, I'm positioning. While you're attacking, I'm calculating. While you're exhausted from chasing shadows, I have become the shadow behind you. The general who moves last understands what it means to win without being seen. He bends the opponent's will without touching their flesh. He turns their soldiers into doubters. He turns their confidence into confusion. And when they collapse, he does not need to strike. Because the enemy breaks upon their own ambition. You see, when you fight too early, you fight for the appearance of control. But when you fight at the very end, you fight only once. You fight when the outcome is already shaped. That is why I build my strategy like a net, not a spear. You throw your strength forward, I pull the tension tight. By the time you notice, you are caught. And here is what you do not understand. To move last is not to hesitate. It is to move after the enemy has exhausted all options. After their arrows have flown, their formations have unraveled, their minds have splintered. You see my move as sudden, but I have been building toward it while you slept. I have studied your steps, your signals, your hesitations, and I needed none of your speed to catch you, only your predictability. In war, as in life, the first to act often falls to the last to adapt. You wanted glory. I wanted leverage. You wanted applause. I wanted silence, because silence lets me hear the direction of your heart. While you declared your purpose, I shaped mine in the dark. I watched how your men followed you. I watched how you handled pressure. I watched how you celebrated too early. And then I did not match your energy. I waited for your collapse. Not every battle is won on the field. Many are won in the tent, in maps drawn with patience, in decisions made without witnesses, in timing that feels invisible until it becomes undeniable. There is no glory in moving first, only risk. There is no pride in early strikes, only exposure. I strike after the enemy believes they've already won. I strike when their armor is off, when their hands are numb, when they forget that the silence is not peace. It is pressure. The general who moves last doesn't need the biggest army. He needs the longest vision. He needs the discipline to delay, not out of fear, but out of certainty. And that is why the final move is not an attack. It is a declaration that the war was over before they even knew they were losing. You call me cold, but war does not reward warmth. It rewards the one who can let go of the need to prove something now, and instead prepare for what cannot yet be seen. The best general has already lost in his mind 1,000 times. He has imagined every failure, every misstep, every betrayal. And because he has already faced them, he does not fear them when they come. You, on the other hand, are terrified of the unknown. So you move first to feel safe. You strike early to feel brave. But feelings do not win wars. Formations do. I move last not because I have less fire, but because I have more fuel. Because I do not burn my reserves to appear strong. I keep them hidden until the world forgets I still carry them. That is the nature of power. The more visible it becomes, the more vulnerable it is. But power that waits, power that masks itself as quiet, power that lets others speak and shine and overreach, that power is eternal. You will spend everything to impress. I will spend nothing to dominate. Because when the final blow lands, it will seem sudden to you, but not to me. I have been guiding you toward it the entire time. That is the paradox of the last move. It looks like luck. It looks like chance. But it is design, so deep and still that even the wind did not sense it coming. While you gathered allies, I sowed silence. While you made declarations, I made calculations. While you obsessed over your enemy, I refined myself until I could not lose. You think I am reacting. You are wrong. You are reacting to a design you never saw, to choices I made before the war even began. A general who moves last does not enter your battle. He invites you into his. And by the time you arrive, you are already off balance, already overextended, already weakened by the effort it took to reach him. He has waited. He has prepared the terrain. He has let your every move serve his end. And when he moves, he does so not to fight, but to finalize, to write the last word, to close the loop you didn't know you were walking in, to place the final stone atop the structure you helped build by charging blindly. I do not resist your momentum, I redirect it. I do not confront your strength, I let it carry you into the trap. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. The best general does not fight wars. He ends them, not with chaos, not with emotion, but with a single move made in silence that answers everything. Do you think I fear your army? I fear only the day I act without understanding. I fear the impulse to act for the sake of ego. That is the true enemy, not you, not your weapons, not your numbers, but the temptation to move before the time is ripe. I was not born with this discipline. I forged it. Each failure taught me that early strikes satisfy the heart, but only measured action secures the kingdom. I have buried soldiers who died in honor, but gained nothing. I have watched great men fall because they could not sit still with uncertainty. Their pride pushed them into battles they could have avoided, into victories that cost them more than defeat. But I honor the pause. I trust the weight of waiting, because I know that time reveals everything. A general who cannot wait will always serve one who can. You raise your banners and think the war has begun, but the war began long before that. In the silence of planning, in the patience of preparation, in the restraint of holding the sword and choosing not to swing it. Yet, you are fighting in the light. I have already won in the shadows. And when the time comes, I will not need to raise my voice. My silence will thunder louder than your entire army. I will not need to break you. You will unravel on your own, because I gave you just enough room to believe you were in control. That is the essence of the final move, not force, but inevitability. The final move does not shout. It ends things, and by then, your mind is tired. Your spirit, overextended. Your men, confused. You look around and realize you've crossed a line you didn't see. That line was mine, because I laid it when I said nothing, because I chose terrain over timing, because I trusted silence over spectacle. Do you understand now? The best general is not the one who fights most brilliantly. He is the one who fights least and still controls the outcome. To move last is not about delay. It is about decision maturity, the kind that does not flinch under pressure, that can sit in the eye of the storm and still see clearly, that does not confuse the enemy's noise with progress. You spent all your arrows. I spent none. You gave away your rhythm. I preserved mine. And now, when I finally move, you will not see it as a response. you will see it as the answer. The last move is not late, it is perfectly timed, because the best general does not win by overwhelming force. He wins by becoming the conclusion the enemy cannot escape. You speak of courage like it's a weapon, but courage without clarity is just a march toward ruin, and the battlefield has no pity for those who mistake movement for mastery. I have watched bold men ride into storms they created and call it honor when it was only noise. I have watched them shout into chaos, thinking their voice alone would bend fate. But fate does not bend to the loud. It listens to the prepared. The best general is not the one who reacts quickly. He is the one who responds wisely, even if that response takes time. Because he knows that a response made in clarity outweighs 100 made in panic. Every day, I choose silence over spectacle. I choose the steady breath over the sharp yell. Not because I am timid, but because I know the battle is already unfolding in the minds of men, long before swords cross. You are trying to win the moment. I am trying to shape the outcome. You mistake my stillness for doubt. But stillness is where I gather force. Stillness is where I find the fault lines in your ambition. I do not chase your mistakes. I let them collect themselves like water behind a dam. And when the weight is enough, I do not strike. I release. Your collapse becomes your own. Your fall is authored by your impatience, signed by your pride, and delivered by your exhaustion. And I am simply there. At the final moment, when one move is all it takes to seal the entire war. You see, the first strike impresses. The last strike decides. I do not need to carry the crowd. I do not need to wear the crown. Because I move in alignment with truth, not applause. The world glorifies aggression, but aggression without structure is suicide dressed in armor. The world rewards immediacy, but immediacy breeds mistakes. So I do not rush toward outcomes. I craft them. I do not compete for attention. I command it when the time is right. That is why I am not troubled when others seem to win early. Because I know that many victories are just louder losses in disguise, losses that have not yet revealed their cost. You may celebrate your early lead. You may even believe you've defeated me. But when you move too fast, you leave the endgame wide open. And I live in the endgame. I build nothing for the first applause. I build only for the final word. And when I speak it, through action, not noise, you will know it was not a strike. It was a sentence. The best general does not crave the beginning. He becomes the inevitability at the end. You ask me why I wait. You ask why I don't strike when the door opens, why I don't rush through when the enemy stumbles, because I do not move on impulse, I move on certainty. That door you see ajar, it might be bait. That stumble, it might be strategy. The impatient general reacts to every twitch. But the master waits until the twitch becomes a pattern, until the pattern becomes a rhythm, and then, only then, he severs it at the source. I don't need to win every exchange. I only need to win the ones that matter, because I am not playing the battle. I am playing the war. When I study you, I study your responses under pressure. I study how quickly you abandon your plan. I study how loud you become when uncertain, and how quiet you become when you're afraid. Every reaction you give me is a confession, and I collect those confessions like arrows. I do not shoot them, I hold them, until the time is right. And when it is, I will not miss. Because I did not spend my strength on displays. I did not waste my moves on proving something. I conserved, I observed, I refined. I let you believe you were ahead. That is the nature of final power. It feels like absence until it becomes absolute. You may have marched farther. You may have shouted louder. You may have struck first. But you forgot the most important rule of war. The battle is not over when you arrive. The battle is over when I move. And by the time I do, you're no longer the soldier who charged in. You're tired. You're uncertain. Your men are looking around for leadership, and you're wondering why I'm still standing while you're falling apart. Because the first mover is not the master. The final mover is. I don't want to win when you're strong. I want to win when you're spent. When you've revealed everything, and I've revealed nothing. That's the moment the war becomes mine. The crowd won't cheer. There won't be a parade. But the silence that follows will not be peace. It will be the echo of my discipline. You will say I was lucky. You will say I struck at your weakest moment, and I will not disagree, because I waited for that moment. I shaped it. I earned it. The best general doesn't gamble. He waits until the outcome is no longer uncertain. And when it isn't, he moves once and never needs to move again. I do not chase opportunity. I engineer inevitability. That is why I move last. Because the final move is not just an action. It is a judgment. It is the sentence handed down after all the noise, all the motion, all the bravado have exhausted themselves. You think you're winning because you're moving. But movement is not victory. Movement without control is erosion. You don't see it yet, but every frantic step you take wears you down. Not just in body, in clarity, in morale, in the hidden architecture of your will. I don't need to destroy your army. I just need to watch you burn it at both ends trying to reach me. And when the smoke clears, I'm still here, intact, invisible, inevitable. That is what last truly means. It means I outlast your emotion. I outweight your hunger. I outthink your speed. You were trained to associate urgency with leadership, but urgency is just panic in armor, and I don't panic, because I trust time to do what force cannot. You may wound me first, you may even knock me back, but your strength fades with every blow, and mine only rises because I conserved it when you could not. You'll call it patience, you'll call it luck, but I call it discipline, so pure it appears divine. Because the final strike is not just a tactic, it is a symbol. It is the culmination of restraint, of all the times I could have acted and didn't, of all the pressure I bore and did not release, of all the traps I declined to spring, just so you'd step deeper into mine. And when I strike, it will not be loud, it will not be glorious, it will be precise, quiet, unavoidable. I will not celebrate, because the moment belongs to no one, not to me, not to the army, not to the world. It belongs to the principle, the law beneath the chaos. That law says, those who burn fast burn out. Those who move first fall first. And those who endure, who bend without breaking, who wait without weakening. They do not win by chance. They win because everything collapses toward their stillness. I do not fight you to defeat you. I fight you to let you reveal your structure. And if it cannot hold, I do not have to break it. It breaks itself. And that is why I move last. Because by the time I act, the war is not beginning. It is ending. You've mistaken noise for control. You've mistaken action for influence. But the battlefield tells a deeper truth. Only those who remain unmoved by pressure can truly command motion. While you surged forward with fury, I watched your lines stretch thin. Your signals lost clarity. Your men questioned your pace, and your own mind, once sharp in the beginning, began to blur at the edges. I saw it all, because I was not consumed by movement, I was consumed by measurement. For every step you took, I studied the cost. For every banner you raised, I asked what it covered. For every attack, I measured what you had to leave behind to strike it. And when you broke formation to chase me, I didn't need to run. I just needed to let you follow. The best general is not followed because of command. He is followed because he understands the terrain of human nature. You fight because you fear stillness. You fear what your men will think if you don't lead from the front. You fear what your allies will say if you hesitate. But fear, when it drives action, always bends toward ruin. I do not act from fear. I act from alignment. Alignment between conditions and clarity, between opportunity and readiness. You see, moving last does not mean waiting for a miracle. It means recognizing when resistance collapses into invitation. It means sensing the shift in morale, the drop in confidence, the overreach, and then not launching a massive campaign, but delivering a surgical sentence of force precise enough to undo all that came before. That is why my moves look small, because they are the final weight on a structure already cracked. I did not weaken it with fire. I weakened it by letting you build it wrong. Your war was loud. Mine was quiet. Yours needed applause. Mine needed results. And when you fell, it didn't feel like defeat. It felt like surrender to something you couldn't see. Because the best general is not the hand that strikes. He is the gravity beneath the battlefield. Invisible, constant, inevitable. So I move last, because I trust the weight of time more than the sound of swords. I trust the unseen more than the urgent. And I trust that what I shape in silence will outlive everything built in noise. You may stand at the front of your army, but I stand behind the passage of time. You ride forward to claim the moment, but I remain rooted to command the outcome. You believed you were chasing me, but all along you were walking into my equation, a formula built on your habits, your pride, your unwillingness to pause. That is why I never rushed, because every misstep you made in haste became my blueprint. I built my silence out of your noise. I built my formation out of your collapse. And when I finally moved, it was not to destroy you. It was to complete you. The version of you that did not survive your own momentum. I do not move last to be seen. I move last so that nothing remains but the truth. A truth no longer buried beneath speeches and flags, no longer hidden beneath ambition and strategy. Just one clear line. Control belongs to the one who needed the least to achieve the most. The final move is not about strength. It's about restraint practiced so deeply it becomes indistinguishable from fate. When I act, I'm not acting alone. I'm acting with the accumulated weight of everything I didn't do. Every battle I let pass, every insult I let echo, every invitation to engage that I declined, every emotion I sat with until it became stillness. That is why when I strike, it does not feel like a decision. It feels like justice. And justice, real justice, doesn't need spectacle. It only needs inevitability. So remember this. If you ever face a general who does not move when you provoke, who does not speak when you threaten, who does not chase when you run, you are not facing hesitation. You are facing a man who owns the end game, because he knows something you do not. The best general does not fight more. He fights last, and because of that, he never has to fight again. I am that general. I move once, I move last, and when I do, it is over.